Hey guys, happy Friday. Welcome to the weekend. We're supposed to be having like a foot of snow here on Friday. So here's to hoping that things, I'm gonna put my computer screen down a little bit. Here's to hoping that we don't get, crazy snow and that we all survive the weekend. The thing about the city is if it snows, it rarely like affects work or anything like that, just because the subways run underground and not that many people drive cars. So put on your snow boots and your warm coat and hopefully we'll all survive. But I feel like the weatherman always over exaggerates, so I'm not really counting on anything. Plus my clinicals are on Monday and class all day on Wednesday, so the snow probably won't affect anything if it comes on Friday. But hope you guys had an awesome week and are looking forward to the weekend. Get lots of rest. I'm excited to sleep in. I feel like I've had a night or two of kind of crappy sleep. So hoping to get kind of back on the bandwagon with some good sleep this weekend. So that's great. We started class on Wednesday, which is long, but also, sorry, that was gross. But also it feels really good just to kind of be back in the classroom and back into the swing of things and learning. So this semester, we usually have like one main core class. And this semester it's diagnosis and management, which is really exciting because we've learned all about clinical assessment for, I feel like, forever. And so learning like how do you diagnose and how do you manage illness and conditions and everything else I find it fascinating. So that's exciting. I feel like that's like the nitty gritty of like being a healthcare provider. So that's really exciting. So I'm in that class, and then I'm in our FNP 2 class, so Family Nurse Practitioner 2, which is kind of hits on a lot of things just with being a nurse practitioner. And then it's more of like a general course. And then we're also in a class called Family Theory and Context that we take with the psychiatric NP students, which is fascinating. I mean, being an RD who does a lot of eating disorders, has a lot of eating disorder clients with eating disorders. Sorry, I couldn't get my grammar right. I just find like psychiatry and like the psychological process really fascinating. So, and the context of the family and how those dynamics work and how that affects children as they grow up, I think is just fascinating. So that's been great. It's a long day and it's an early morning, but it's all good. So I hope you guys have had a great week too. This week I decided that I had a question that I got, and then we got on the topic of talking about this in class on Wednesday. So I thought that it would be good to talk about probiotics and prebiotics today. So that's what we're going to talk about. I'm pumped up about it because I think it's fascinating. And I also think it's super important because our health ultimately starts in our gut, in our GI tract. And if we don't have a healthy GI tract, tons of things are out of whack. So first things first, so much of our health is stemmed from our gut, like I just said, and our gut flora is kind of the foundation of our health. And so if we don't take care of that, nothing else is ultimately going to be taken care of. So probiotics versus prebiotics. I feel like we've been hearing about probiotics for a really long time, but prebiotics is something that people might not have heard of, or there's not a lot of attention given to it, or something like that. One or the other. Essentially, probiotics are the actual bacteria in your gut, like the actual living bacteria that are in your gut. Prebiotics are non-living, and they are essentially a form of fiber that we eat, mainly carbohydrates, but does not get digested. Instead, it gets eaten up by the bacteria. So a good thing, a good analogy to keep in mind is a probiotic is like the Pac-Man, and everything the Pac-Man eats is a prebiotic. So it's like this. And we need them both to keep our gut healthy. Of course, we need the actual bacteria in there in the first place. But if we're not eating foods to actually feed that bacteria are going to die off. And we're not going to have a healthy gut anymore. And so I think an also really important thing to realize is that everybody's gut flora is unique to them, right? That's the beauty of the human body. And so therefore, we can take, most of us can take the same probiotic, and since if it covers a lot of bacteria, but I think where probiotics get tricky and sticky, this is what we were talking a lot about on Wednesday in class, is that when you start like getting probiotic recommendations from your doctor, or let's say you are a provider and you start recommending, different strains of bacteria are going to function differently in the body. But overall, the most important thing to note is that it's best to get probiotics and prebiotics from food sources and not from supplements. So first things first, probiotic, live bacteria, and those mainly are going to come from like cultured and fermented foods. Now, I first recommend, first and foremost, I think a good thing to remember is to never take antibiotics unless you absolutely need to take antibiotics. I think that they are recommended far too often in healthcare. Providers prescribe antibiotics way too often. And we're so quick to take an antibiotic to kill something off, when really, yes, you're going to be killing off that bacteria, but you're also killing off the really good bacteria in your gut. And so it would take a lot for me to take an antibiotic, or really any medication in general, but a lot for me to take an antibiotic. I think the last time I took one was like 6 years ago. It's because I got like a dental work done, and like it was going to be really bad if I got an infection in my mouth. And that's really, but I think like unless you absolutely have to, never take an antibiotic, because it totally wipes out your gut flora. And if you take antibiotics frequently enough, you're going to deplete your entire bacteria, and that can have like long-term consequences. It suppresses your immune system if you don't have that good gut bacteria, and therefore you're more prone to cancer, you're more prone to illness, you're more prone to so many things. We need our immune system to fight off just like all the toxins that enter our body, especially in the environment we live in now, where I feel like everything is toxic. So that's first and foremost. Secondly, if you're going to buy, dairy or any sort of animal product, this is why I always stress people trying to get it organic, even though I know it's expensive, organic or at least antibiotic free, just so you're not getting all that ick in your food and then into your body. So don't take antibiotics. That's first step. Secondly is probiotics, right? How do we get probiotics in our system? I don't think that everyone needs to be taking a capsule full of probiotics, because it's not as effective as just the food that you eat. I do think that probiotics can be helpful for people who aren't having an adequate diet or who need a little bit of extra support. And for that, I recommend either one, Vega One, which I talk about all the time, and I've been talking about them way before they started graciously sending me product. I just love them. I've been drinking their stuff since like 2008, a long time. But that has a really great probiotic blend already in that protein powder. Secondly, if you're looking for a really good probiotic, I recommend Garden of Eden Raw for Life Women. It's just a high quality product. It's great probiotics. That's what I recommend. Let's talk about food though. So dairy, right? Cultured kefir, yogurt, cheese. Most dairy, buttermilk is fermented, and so cottage cheese. So that's going to have probiotics in it. The thing with dairy, and I'm not saying like never eat dairy, because I do eat dairy from time to time. I don't necessarily cook it in my own kitchen, but I do eat it from time to time. If I'm out at a party or out to a restaurant. But the thing about dairy is that the milk protein, the cow's milk protein casein, is actually inflammatory to our system. Now, lots of things are inflammatory to our system. Stress is. So that's not saying never eat it because you're going to be so unhealthy, right? It's all about balance at the end of the day, and looking at things through a broad lens. But the reason why I don't recommend dairy for probiotics is because it's kind of like a double-edged sword. Yes, you're getting the probiotics, but you're also getting an inflammatory protein in your system as well. So what I do recommend is fermented foods that are not animal products. So miso is great. That lasts in your fridge forever. You can make salad dressings with it and put it in soups and things like that. Kombucha tea, which is a little pricey, but I love it. I drink it a lot in the afternoons, and that has live bacteria. Also tempeh, fermented tempeh, or tempeh is fermented. That's great. It's also a great source of protein, and since it's fermented, the phytoestrogen content in that is drastically lower than something like tofu or edamame or something. So if people are concerned about soy, I tell them really not to worry about it that much with tempeh because it is fermented. Also things like kimchi and sauerkraut, those are both pickled vegetables fermented. Those are chock full of chock full of probiotics as well. So those are all really, really good sources of probiotics. Also things like sourdough bread, that's fermented. That's going to have probiotics in it. Essentially beer and wine do too, but that's not going to be a source that I recommend just because beer and wine are inflammatory. It's alcohol. I drink it. I love it, but it's not going to be what we're aiming for trying to eat probiotics. So those are good foods to work towards. Work with someone like a dietitian or a healthcare provider who's knowledgeable to figure out if you should be taking a probiotic via a capsule or a tablet. If not, just trying to incorporate those foods as often as you can is going to keep your gut healthy. Secondly is you have to feed the probiotics with prebiotics in order to keep them healthy. So I think a good thing to keep in mind is if you don't have good enough prebiotics or an ample amount of prebiotics, then you're not actually going to keep your probiotics, the probiotics that you do have in your body, or the good bacteria in your gut healthy. So to keep it as simple as possible, that's mainly going to be fruits and vegetables, like some whole grains, high quality whole grains, so things like barley and buckwheat and things like that, fruits and vegetables, and mainly raw. So that good fiber in those actually is not going to get digested, and the good bacteria in your gut are going to feed off of that. So things like legumes too. So all of your good plant foods are going to help you keep your gut healthy. So that's a good thing to remember. Those are non-living. You just eat those. Those come in, you know, they're found in the foods that we eat, and that's what keeps the bacteria in our gut healthy in the first place. So you need both. You need probiotics, and then you also need prebiotics. So that's kind of the difference. I don't want to go on and on forever, but that's the main difference. So I think the most important thing to note though too is stress is going to be super inflammatory. And so no matter what you're putting in your body or no matter how much you're exercising, stress at the end of the day is going to tear apart your digestive tract. And stress comes from not sleeping enough. It comes from just external stressors in our life. It comes from exercising too much. And it comes from eating too little. And so stress is really the key at the end of the day. If you're feeling like there's a lot of stress in your life, sometimes you can have a lot of GI upset. So one of the first questions I ask people when they have GI problems is, how is stress in your life? And then we can start talking about food and all those other things. So that's important to realize too, that yes, take this information and yes, apply it to your life in order to take care of yourself, but don't stress out about it because that's going to be doing your body a disservice. It's counterintuitive or it's counterproductive. So I hope that's helpful. Any questions, email me, robyncole, ROBYNCOALE @gmail.com. And hope you guys have a great weekend. All right.